When it comes to marketing, people are always like, let's put this in high gear. And when they do that, you kind of come back and you're like, this is high gear. Well, it's never a question of if you're in high gear or not when you are talking with our next guest, Heather Wilson. Heather is the owner of High Gear Success. Now, she works in the powersports industries, helping companies and events promote like ATVs, motorcycles, jet ski, all those types of things. Even if you aren't into those, you're going to find some great information in today's episode. Stay tuned. Heather, thank you for coming on today. You've always talked about like marketing and making sure that you do cohesive branding. What is one of the key elements you see so many people overlook?
Yeah, I think I work with, a lot of startups, and sometimes they kind of are piecing things together, and you really have to have the whole strategy mapped out to start. So to have that cohesive brand, you need to think about all those things before you even launch your business, not kind of as you're doing it. So thinking about things even like websites, social media handles, your email address, like not using a generic Gmail or something, but actually like an email address that's your domain of your brand. So yeah, just having all of that mapped out ahead of time, even like having a logo, fonts, colors, all of that's going to create that image, and you want that cohesiveness.
It's funny you say that because we often see that, like I'll ask people for a branding guide. And they look at me in some cases like, a what? What are some key elements like you would tell people like to set up as a branding guide? If there's the top 5 things, what would you put in that?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be complicated. There are templates out there that you can use to develop your branding guide, but just like I said, colors. So like the exact, this might sound crazy to some people, but like the hex code of the color red, the RGB values, the CMYK values, things like that. So it's always the same red throughout. Your fonts, like making sure that probably like 2 to 3 fonts at the most, and that you're using those consistent fonts because people get to see that and recognize that as your brand. Even when it gets into writing things stylistically, if you're going to use AP style or other different styles of writing or certain words that are relevant to your industry, if you're going to capitalize them, not capitalize them, things like that, just for consistency.
So it really is. It's just laying that out as a plan rather than going back and looking at it and realizing I did it this way this time, that way that time, and a third way a fourth time.
Yeah, and even like how your logo is going to look on different color backgrounds. It's going to look different on black than it is on a white background or a red background. And so sometimes companies have like 2 variations of their logos that are very similar but used in different applications.
It's funny, we do the same thing because right here I've got white. If it ends up on a white background, that does not necessarily so we've got an inverted. That makes perfect sense. I know in some cases you've talked about knowing when to hire an expert. Of course, I mean, you and I were both business owners. We are experts at everything, right? When is a business ready to hire marketing or PR? What should they be looking at for some of those things?
Yeah, I think you have to know like when your expertise in an area stops. And I always equate it to like, I'm not a mechanic. So you really don't want me working on your car or motorcycle or anything like that. Like I know enough, but you don't want me working on it. So it's kind of the same thing. If you're not a marketing person, like maybe now's the time to hire somebody that can help you along and kind of, one, simplify the process, make it easy for you, also a lot more efficient. So if I was going to become a mechanic, I would have to put in tons of time and hours and research and figure things out to even begin to do the work. And that would be the same for somebody that's needing marketing help. So they're going to have to spend so much more time and resources just getting up to speed, which time is money, right? So
Sure.
If they can just budget to hire somebody, they can get it done faster and more effectively for them.
That makes sense. Now, this is a question that when I saw this, I became very, very excited to ask this question. It is about my new favorite term that I saw you use, the barf it out technique for writing copy. First off, I'd like you to explain that to me. So that way someone because I'm one of these super organized people that, okay, and if I can't see the path, whatever. So first off, what does barf it out look like? And do I need a biohazard suit while doing this?
I wish I could tell you who to credit that line from, but I learned it early in my career. And basically, it's just whatever you have in your head, whatever information you're trying to convey, it's all jumbled. Just get it out, get it onto paper, get it onto the computer, and you can always rearrange it, reword it, reorganize it later and make it sound good. But you want to have all the pieces out in front of you. You don't want to try to be plugging in a piece and you don't have the other piece. And it's just going to be harder later if you're trying to make it sound perfect from the start. So my first drafts of things are almost never close to how it's going to end up later. So you want to just get all the information out, barf it all out, and then you can go back and massage it and make it better.
So you're literally in that process. Are you eliminating stuff? Are you organizing stuff? Is it a combination of those two? Are you adding stuff? Is it?
Usually for me, it's cutting. So I get an immense amount of information out of my head and onto the paper, and then it's cutting it down and seeing what is most important. So there's, a term in journalism where you don't bury the lead. You don't want the important information to be 5 paragraphs down because people may not make it that far down. You want it to be at the top. So really prioritizing the information that you want people to know and then giving them more details and filling in the background later on.
It's interesting because with the podcasting, we coach people on that too. Do not make people wait till the end of the episode to say something amazing. Say something good. Start with something good. Start with something that's going to grab people and that makes sense too from the writing side of that. You've mentioned that you hate the generic About Us pages.
Breaks my heart.
I was about to say, I could almost see your blood pressure go up a little bit on the screen as I said that. What makes a good About Us page? It's tough for me to say, look, this is who I am. This is what I do. But when I kind of go back and do that process and I barf it out on the page and try and organize it, I'm like, okay, I kind of came up with something that sounds like everyone else here.
So it's definitely always hardest to talk about ourselves. Even I struggle with that personally. I can write amazing bios and information about my clients, and then I sit down and try to write a bio about myself, and I'm like, oh gosh, I don't know. It sounds terrible, but it is always hardest to talk about ourselves. And we never give ourselves enough credit, right? We don't want to sound too egotistical or we're bragging. So we kind of don't hit on all those high points, but that's what people want to know. They want to know your credentials and your accomplishments and who you are as a person. So, maybe it's being a small business myself, but I always want to be able to support other small businesses, go to their websites and actually know the person or the people behind it. So just a generic web page that gives, 3 sentences about the company, maybe doesn't even talk about when they were established. I want to know who's actually there. I would love to see a picture. And I know a lot of people hate pictures of themselves, but I would love to see pictures of who these people are. And it doesn't always have to be so business focused. Talk about your business and credibility, but also talk about what you enjoy doing in your free time, or do you have dogs, or do you support community causes? Give people a connection to you because people really do relate to people.
Is your podcast not getting the results you hoped for? Are you feeling stuck and unsure how to grow your audience or make a real impact? We get it. Podcasting can be a challenge, but with the right strategies, it can be an incredibly powerful tool. That's why we're offering our free no-pitch podcast consultation. We'll spend 30 minutes with you identifying areas for improvement on anything from optimizing your audio or video quality to developing a content strategy that resonates with your customers. If you're ready to unleash your podcast's full potential, visit the link in our show notes to schedule your free consultation. Space is limited, so sign up today so we can help you create a podcast that truly shines. It's interesting you say that, because it's one of the things that like we talk about, like the video side of the podcasts, is it's once again, it's building you up as a human. People want to do business with people. Mm-hmm. Not every person is for everyone, and that's perfectly fine. But when you get random people saying, "Hey, saw your podcast," you're like, "Oh, great." You've kind of built that know, like, and trust that, I mean, really moves those things forward. Kind of pulling on that thread a little bit further with photo and video. You mentioned the photos on the About Us. I know you've worked with some racers, you work with a lot of brands and stuff like that. What do you tell them when it comes to like starting out with video content? So many people are like, I don't want to be on camera. I don't want to do this. And I see the smile there. You're like, oh, here we go. It's that same speech. What do you usually tell them to kind of say, no, just do it?
Well, the nice thing is like the trends on social media over the last couple of years is that they're not going for perfection. They're not these like heavily produced videos with production teams and crazy stuff like that. There is a place for that, obviously. But just for the average brand, like, I mean, we're talking short clips. We're talking kind of holding your phone up in front of you. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect. And the nice thing is it doesn't always have to be live either. So you can do a bunch of takes with it if you don't like what you're doing. But yeah, people really do love watching videos. And that's something I get to work on too for myself. And I have started kind of providing more resources via video in addition to like a PDF guide. So there's a lot of opportunity with video, and it does give people like more insight into who you are as a person, because they can hear you, they can see you, they can like hear the tone in your voice. So it's again, connection.
How important has that become for especially like the racers and some of the smaller brands? Is that, I mean, have you seen that, especially over the past couple of years, just explode in terms of the importance of that? Or is it?
I think one, to start, we go back to that like cohesive image and brand. Like, do you have all the other pieces in place too before you start like building out video? So you're not just like throwing up videos, but everything's kind of jumbled. Like, you still want to have that cohesive feel for your brand. So more importantly is like, what are you doing? Like the content, like why are you doing it? What's the goal of it? I'm always a big person of quality over quantity. So, I mean, just because you can do a video doesn't mean that you necessarily should.
I'd like to speak back to you mentioned the having the intention behind it there, and what's the goal of this? It's funny because that's the first thing whenever we take on a video project, we're always like, why? And people are like, well, because we need video. And we're like, for what? And they're like, well, video. And I'm like, no. What is the purpose of this? When people are getting ready to do some of these shorter videos, is it always to, I guess I would say, what is it always to get the sale, or is it just to engage with people? I mean, what are some of the things that you see that people are doing that are bringing people to them that may not necessarily be sales oriented, but once again, could turn into that down the road?
I think like you mentioned, the know, like, and trust is really important. So it's not that you're selling at every single opportunity. Like, they're getting to know you as a person. And yeah, maybe you have like a call to action at the end of some of the videos, but most importantly, like, you're just connecting and engaging with your audience, and you're giving them a reason to come back and keep watching or keep reading or keep seeing your content. So then you can maybe sell at one point, but it doesn't have to be every video or all the time. And I'm a huge fan of like what they call attraction marketing. So I would rather have people attracted to me and come to me like asking about my services than like going to them necessarily and saying, well, hey, will you buy this thing?
That makes sense. That's interesting. I like that approach. So you are, instead of, I guess I would say the classic door knocker of, hi, would you like to buy encyclopedias or a vacuum? You are, let me get out in front of the people that could be interested in what I do. And when they need me, they will be here.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely more of my approach. I mean, there is a time and place for both, right? I can't
Sure.
just be like sitting back and waiting for all the work to come to me. I have been very blessed that I do get a lot of referrals, and a lot of people find me, even just via searching on Google. I have pretty good rankings for being such a niche person in motorsports. But there is always a time to like go out and seek the work and ask, people if they would be interested and make that pitch. But a lot of times, just being in the right place in front of the right people, then they're coming to you, and it feels a little more genuine.
Yeah. And if there's already that familiarity built, that know, like, and trust, as we referred to, then you're already foot in the door there. You co-host the Pit Pass Moto podcast. Once again, this goes to that power sports background, and it's very much how we know each other. How has that experience influenced your approach, maybe in your business, in terms of the marketing or content creation for your clients?
Yeah, so that was a fun opportunity. I was first a guest on the podcast. I think it was probably a year ago this month that I was a guest with Dale Spangler, who was the previous host. And then a couple months later, Dale decided to step away to pursue some other opportunities, and I'd posted on LinkedIn that the podcast would be looking for some new hosts. And it had always kind of been on my mind to do a podcast, but it can be a big undertaking depending on if you're doing it all yourself or if you have resources or a team or, like, even in your case, a studio and all the equipment to do it. So the opportunity came along and I thought, well, that would be really fun. And it's interviewing people in the motorcycling industry. And what I found is, one, it's a lot of fun, but two, it's great for networking and meeting new people. So I might be interviewing people that I know. I might be interviewing people that I found on Instagram, on LinkedIn, via recommendations from other people, or my co-host might bring somebody on. But it's great networking. It's great marketing for your brand. Again, people get to know, like, and trust you. I was at a motorcycle ride down in Tennessee, and this guy came up to me and was like, "Hey, are you Heather?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I was thinking, it was a question about the event because they're a client of mine and I help with their marketing. But no, he's like, "Oh, I listened to you on Pit Pass Moto." And I was like, "Wait, what? People actually listen to this?" So that was kind of cool. Like, you never know who's listening.
It's funny you say that because we have a host that has a racing podcast. And whenever someone comes up to him and says, "Hey, I listened to your podcast," he's like, "You're the guy." That is his answer to it. And people always like, "Wait, what?" From that aspect, you mentioned where you find some of the guests on. Like, you mentioned LinkedIn, you mentioned, where's probably the most common place that you have found guests, and where, I guess I would say, where's the best ratio of outreach to people actually being guests?
I'm a big LinkedIn fan. I've been using it for, it's probably been close to 15 years, if I had to guess. Big fan of that. I mean, it depends on your industry too and like who you're looking for. Sure. But LinkedIn has been great for, you can search keywords, you can search people, you can search companies. It can kind of lead you to the right place. I'm really active in posting, and not even so much that like I'm posting constantly, but LinkedIn is really underutilized because a lot of people aren't posting. So even if you do post a little bit, you're pretty high up in the searches. So that's been really helpful for me. And then Instagram tends to lean a little bit of the younger crowd, the racers, less corporate people. That's kind of where I find them, is on Instagram.
Interesting. So it really is. It's a case of finding the audience for who you're looking for. Mm-hmm. We've talked about that in so many cases. If we're looking for maybe a slightly older audience, probably Facebook is going to be where you're going to find them. But we also realize that there's young people on Facebook too. It's not just
it's tough
buddies.
Because like I'm a huge Facebook fan and I don't think I'm that old yet, but Instagram is like, I don't know. If you're even a couple years younger than me, Facebook's like, oh, only the old people are on there. Like, so.
Only the old people like me are on there.
Like me, I guess. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on like some of the future of like content creation as far as marketing goes? I mean, there's especially in the past, podcasting's been around for 20 years, but it has gotten so much bigger in the past couple of years. We know that. We're kind of banking on that with our business. What are some trends that you see with content creation that people should be engaging in?
Oh my gosh, the possibilities are endless when it comes to content creation. I always say you can never be bored in marketing because there's always something that you can be doing. You can never just be like, I've done everything, I'm just going to sit back and chill. That's never going to happen. So there's always content to be created. As far as podcasts, what is cool too is not just like hosting your own. I mean, that's awesome. That's a super fun time, but you can be guests on other people's podcasts, and that's a great way to start too, is to leverage other people's audiences. So you can go so far with marketing to your audience and doing all of your efforts, but when you get in front of somebody else's audience that they've grown and can, basically be a trusted source for their audience, then you've gained a whole new audience to kind of add into your your contacts.
It's funny. We've made that comment all the time that the easiest way to grow your social media audience is to use someone else's. Mm-hmm. And we do our best to do that. You've mentioned in some stuff before about self-confidence challenges. We've all, I think every business owner kind of goes through some of those where we're like, why am I doing this? Is anyone going to buy this from me? What advice would you give to another entrepreneur that's maybe kind of struggling with some of the I don't know if this is for me?
Yeah, I think those early years are especially challenging on the self-confidence because maybe you don't feel like you have the evidence in front of you to like say, yeah, I'm really good at this thing. Like I have been working in marketing and public relations for 10 years, like prior to starting my own business. But then when you start over, it feels like you're 20 again and you're like trying to figure it out. And it definitely can be a mind game sometimes. Like you have all the business stuff, but then you have like the mental game of it too. And yeah, just feeling like, is this work good enough for my clients? Like, am I providing the value that I think I am? Like, am I, charging what's a fair rate or whatever? And it kind of took me, I would say this year's like really been the year that I've settled into it. And so I'm about to start year 4 that, yeah, like now I have the evidence, like my clients have stayed with me for a couple of years, right? They wouldn't be staying with me if they didn't value or appreciate me or my work. We've grown, their numbers. So there is that like the evidence there for me to see it, but it's definitely challenging in the beginning. And I would say definitely just to trust yourself too. Like, if you're feeling a certain way, that you should really do something, then like do it. Or if you're like, this is just a bad idea, like you should probably listen to your gut too. So.
Every business owner has been like, this seems like a bad idea, but there's a check at the end of it. So we're going to go ahead and try this. And then we realized it didn't matter that there was a check at the end of it. It was a bad idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was just a bad idea. Like me, I know you truly enjoy what you do. You're in an industry that you love. I mean, I know you ride. We were just talking earlier. We have basically the same motorcycle. I find that awesome and entertaining all at once. What are some of the most fulfilling aspects of your work with some of your clients? What, at the end of the day, I mean, working with powersports is awesome, but what's the piece that says, yeah, this is why I love what I do?
Well, I love that when I wake up every morning, I'm not dreading to go to work. Like, I'm not like, oh, I got to get on and do this project. Like, I've learned too, like we were saying earlier, even if there's a check at the end, only do the projects that you really want to do that I enjoy and I'm good at, because otherwise it's not enjoyable. So I have kind of learned to take on the work that I enjoy and, provides value for my clients. But like the coolest thing for me is building those relationships with my clients over the years. And some of them, I mean, we've built really strong relationships, and we will text or even like talk casually outside of work. And I know maybe that crosses the line. Some people don't want to, they very much want it separated, but some of these people have just grown to be really close friends, and I appreciate that. And I'm a words of affirmation girl, if you've ever heard of that. So basically, like, I love hearing good feedback. Of course, I will take the not so good feedback too. I love feedback, but I love when my clients will actually like say or tell me like that they appreciate the work, or this is really great, or yeah, I love this. That keeps me motivated.
I love that. It's funny. A friend of mine was quoted one time. He said, "It's not business unless it's personal." I heard that, and I really like that. And I agree the same thing. I've developed many good friendships with a lot of the people that we work with. I really appreciate you coming on today and taking the time to do this. This is a lot of fun. I'm glad we had the chance to catch up. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me. And maybe we'll get you on our podcast next.
Sounds like a plan. For everyone out there, to me, a couple of big things. We always talk about preparation. Preparation to get your branding together. Make sure it's a cohesive thing. The other thing is make sure that you are doing the things. Get out there, get in front of the camera, do the stuff. Know, like, trust, start to work on building that. As always, do me a favor, take care of yourself, and if you can, take care of someone else too. I will see you all very soon. Creating engaging content can feel overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. That's why I'm excited to share our Stomping Podcasting newsletter. You'll get actionable insights and expert tips straight to your inbox. These are to help you maximize your video marketing and podcasting return on investment. Head over to the show notes and click the link to subscribe to our free newsletter. Don't miss out on this opportunity to become a video marketing and podcasting pro.